welcome to the reading wrap-up for February. My name is Milo, welcome to the channel. I remember to introduce myself this time. Yay! For those of you who might be returning, I don't know, I do get an average of like 20 views on this, which I do appreciate. You might tell, slightly different camera quality. It's because the camera I usually film on is broken. It's not supposed to do this when it's off, and whenever I turn it on, it just comes up with this. Which, can you read that? Or, well, it basically says turn the power off and on again, because it's supposed to make the camera go down. So I'm now filming on my phone, so that might mean everything's in reverse. I'm gonna hope I can fix that in post, but we'll see. Obviously, I need a new camera now, so if you got any suggestions for cameras, please put it down below. Comment down below, I'd appreciate that. And also, if I look off, like not directly at the camera, it's because I'm looking at the screen of the picture, which is very annoying. But I'm trying to look directly at the camera. So obviously, I'm also filming later than I usually would, which I'm filming in the evening when I usually film in the morning, because I was waiting to see if my camera would fix itself, because I've been waiting for that all day, and I had to go shopping. So another month, calendar changed. Let's get on with the reading wrap up, which is the whole point of the video. Okay, so the first books I read was my monthly reread of The Amazing Books Not on Fire and Dapgo. Nothing really to say specifically about them. Oh shit! Sorry, knocked my makeshift tripod. I need to get a tripod as well. So, if you got any tripod recommendations, like, please comment down below. But yeah, still 5 stars, still the same. The first book I read in February, which I did start in January, but I had a hard time finishing it because of post-war depression, was More Than a Best Friend by Emma R. Albin, which is marketed on Amazon at least as lesbian Bridgerton. I don't know how accurate it is. I haven't watched or read Bridgerton, so I can't really say, but that's how it's marketed. Take that as from what you will. So this is about Beth and Gwen, and basically Beth has one season to basically get married to avoid her and her mother becoming destitute, because her father was a piece of shit and didn't leave either of them anything once he died. And Gwen this is like her 7th season. It probably says 4th season. Why did I get 7 from? Her 4th season, and she's not really looking for anyone, and she's alright with that. And she doesn't have any intention of looking for anyone, since she's also the daughter of an earl, so she's pretty set money-wise and comfortable where she is. And he's a pretty decent guy. They meet during Beth's opening season, and are immediately, the word they used is entranced with each other. And then they quickly realize is that Beth's mother and Gwen's father have a history with each other, so Gwen hatches a plan to try and matchmake them, basically. And then the plot goes on from them, and then eventually they end up falling in love as well. I rated this 4 stars. I thought it was really sweet. I do like historical romances, so that was a nice way to start the month of love. Considering I think I only read about like 3 books that have romance plots in them, considering it's romance month. It was romance month. I had a lot of books with romantic subplots. I was more invested in their parents getting together actually than I was them, though, so there is that. But, you know, not a bad start to the month. The next book I read, which is the sequel to More Than a Best Friend, is You're the Problem, It's You by Emma, still by Emma Album, which is about Bobby, who is Gwen's cousin, and James, who is Beth's cousin. Bobby is the second born to his older brother. What's his name? I can't remember his name. That's bad. Albie? Also, it comes with a family tree, which is fun. It's Albie, isn't it? Yes, Albert. Albie Mason, and he's very upset with that. James is the one who's just inherited everything from Beth's father, and he's overwhelmed with that, basically. They meet, and Beth and Gwen are trying to get them together, basically, to make sure that they stay together, and which I guess is a spoiler for the end of the last book, but it's a romance. It wouldn't be marketed as a romance if they didn't get together, so they meet, and they try to, get along, but neither of them like each other, at all at first. But then they end up getting blackmailed by the same guy, both of them, to try and save their family's reputation. They have to work together. I also rated this 4 stars, but I did really, really enjoy it. But yeah, there's not really much to say to that. I enjoyed it. You don't have to read More Than a Best Friend to understand you're the problem, it's you. It could be read as a standalone, but I think I liked More Than a Best Friend because, reading it after that, because I really liked the crumbs of Beth and Gwen and their parents in this story, because I found it really sweet, and obviously I like the characters. But anyway, the next book I read in February was Celestial Monsters by Aidan Thomas. This is the sequel to, what's it called? It's the Sunbearer Trials. And so I won't spoil it too much, because you definitely need to read the first book to understand what's going on in this one, because, pardon me, he does not hold your hand when it comes to being immediately thrown into this world. But basically, Tio is a semidose? Is that what they're called? Semidose? Yes, which is basically demigod, and he's chosen to compete in the Sunbearer Trials, which is a trial that takes place every 20 years to keep the sun alive, basically, and it's still burning hot. Whoever loses gets sacrificed to keep the sun going, and whoever wins is the person who has to perform the sacrifice, which is the basic book. I really loved the Sunbearer Trials, and so much so that I had to desperately explain what was going on to my mum the second that I finished it. She said it's very much like the Hunger Games, so at some point I'm probably going to read the Hunger Games. And I remember I rated the Sunbearer Trials 5 stars, and I was really excited for Celestial Monsters. And in all honesty, this was slightly disappointing to me. I don't know if it's because I needed to read the Sunbearer Trials right before this to catch myself up, but I was honestly a little bit, not bored per se. No, honestly, yeah, I was bored for a little bit of it, because and it felt like they need to go on this big journey for reasons, but it felt like the journey was simultaneously too short but also not long enough, which how he managed to do that, I don't know, but it happened. And also there's a big twist at the end of the Sunbearer Trials, which I didn't see coming, but granted, I was 16, 17 when I read it. This was over 2023, I think, was when I read it, in November, so probably 16. And the big twist, and so because of that impacts this book quite a lot, and it does open with the immediate aftermath of what that was, and it is also dual POV, which they didn't do, which it wasn't in the first book, from what I remember and what I skimmed through. But yeah, so basically it's the twist makes, during the entirety of the book, I'm just wondering how is this specific character going to deal with the moral dilemmas he has now put himself in because of what happened in like the end of the first book. And when it got to the situation of, do I continue down this path that I've tried to carve out to myself, or do I go back because I realized what I did was wrong, it felt like it switched too back, like it just reversed too quickly, like it should have been more perilous than it actually was. Not to say that this wasn't a bad book, and I could definitely see this being like a really good movie series. Like, would it be duology if it's a book, if it's a movie as well? But I did rate it 4.25 stars, which is not a bad rating, but considering the fact I rated the first book 5 stars is not right, and I probably did inflate it slightly. The next book I read, which is very different from the first 5. I read 10 books this month, I forgot to mention. The next book I read was Ghosts, Brought to Life by the makers of the show Ghosts, which is a British sitcom. Don't watch the American version, it's shit. Watch the British one. I'm looking forward to the German one whenever that's coming out. I'd probably have to do subtitles. I think there might also be an Australian one, which I'm probably gonna look into. I don't know, but I know the American one is terrible. If you're gonna watch this show, watch the British version. I'm not saying that just because I'm British, I'm saying that because objectively the American one is shit. But yeah, so this is a behind the scenes for everything like leading up to the show, a breakdown of every single episode, a backstory for the characters, and it's written by the creators of the show who also play the characters, and they also have snippets from like the directors and the makeup artists, and it was really fun. Ghosts is one of my comfort shows, though I don't really watch it that often anymore because I don't watch TV that often anymore. And this is technically a sequel to a book that they wrote that's set in world, and I really enjoyed it. I rated this 4 stars, and I miss them. Yeah, dramatic tonal shift from Ghosts is The Girl in Question by Tess Sharp, which is the sequel to The Girls I've Been, which I did not expect. This is a thriller, and this was amazing, honestly. And I didn't have high hopes because I thought that the ending of the girl from The Girls I've Been was like a very good place to leave it off of, and it felt like the main character had gotten a bit of closure, but when the perilousness of like the situation that it was brought into with these characters was introduced to the main story, I don't know if what I'm saying makes any sense, I'm sorry. It felt organic, like it made sense why this perilous would happen. I should explain, the first book is about Nora, her girlfriend Iris, and her ex-boyfriend Will? Wes. Where'd I get Will from? Her ex-boyfriend Wes getting trapped in a bank during a bank robbery, and during that basically the life that Nora has built comes unraveling as secrets are revealed. I rated that 5 stars, I think. I don't remember, it was like 2021, 2022 when I read the book, so I don't really remember what my specific rating was, but I rated this 5 stars. I absolutely loved it, and I love these characters. It made me very stressed because I loved these characters, and everyone is very... If you want morally grey, read this book series. Duology. I loved how present Iris was in this, because this was also... I can't remember if the first book was, but this one was multiple POVs, which I did appreciate. And then the next book I read Heavily Tyrant by, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, I apologize, Ziran Zhao. I apologize pronounce, which is the sequel to Iron Widow. Iron Widow was the first sci-fi I ever read, and it is a reimagining of the rise of the first ever female Empress of China, Wu Zetian, and it includes a lot of mechs and and I really enjoyed it from what I remember. So I think I rated that 5 stars, and I also rated this 5 stars. I can't really spoil specifically what happened in this, but know that the ending of Iron Widow left a lot of people, including myself, screaming. For me, it was internally. I don't know about everyone else. Because it felt slightly abrupt, but it wasn't. And then this picks up immediately afterwards, so you have to read the first one to understand the second, to understand this. Just know, if another example of really good writing of morally grey characters, not of only of the male protagonist, but also the female character, I loved her. One thing that was definitely improved upon is that Wu Zetian has a much better support group, in that she's surrounded a lot more by women than she was in the first book, because the only allies she had were men, when basically her entire thing is to try and get women's voices, but again she's surrounding herself just with men. So seeing her with women and her empowering women, doing actually what she says, was really gratifying, and I really liked it. And again, the ending of this also left me screaming, specifically the epilogue, and I'm terrified of what the third book's going to be like. So yes, obviously, if you weren't aware, this book series is at the very least going to be a trilogy. I can't imagine it would be more than 3 books, but I didn't think there'd be more than 2, so here we are. Yeah. To try and lighten the mood a bit, I then decided to read Sayonara Games by Yu Mindeku, which is a manga. So it's a BL, if you can't tell. And it's about Arimara and Yosu. Arimara, they were in the same baseball team in high school, but were I think 3 years apart or something like that. And so Marura, I'm so sorry for pronunciations, is now working an office job, and he's enlisted the help of his childhood friend to help his sister study so that she can get into the university she wants. But then he has to bail because he needs to help with his dad, so he entrusts his friend Yusuko, this dude, to tutor her instead. And from there the story evolves. I rated this 3 stars. It was cute, but honestly, I felt like I needed more from them. I needed more interactions and more of it to be drawn out. I think it felt too fast, them getting together. But for a short manga that's I'm pretty sure a one-off, it was pretty sweet, and I did enjoy it because of that. So I will be unhauling the Sayonara Games. But anyway, the last book I read in February was The Spirit Bares Its Teeth by Andrew Joseph Wright. Let me just say, holy shit. I generally think I love this author. This author is now an instant buy author for me. And spoilers for next month's reading wrap-up. I am now currently reading Compound Fracture as well, and I will be purchasing You Weren't Meant to Be Human, which is coming out in September, which for some reason is his adult debut, considering how graphic his previous books have been. I'm terrified of what this specifically will be. Anyway, none of that has to do with this specific book. I loved this, if you couldn't tell, and in like November, I think, of last year, I read his first book, Hell Followed With Us. I made a playlist for it, and I loved it, and I did say that I would be reading the rest of his work, and I've kept up with that. Let me just tell you, this book is insanely graphic, so be warned beforehand. And I really appreciate that every single book he writes starts with a letter from the author, basically talking a bit about the book, and it does give content warnings for this. This one specifically, obviously, it's set in the 1800s, so it's got a lot of violence, get it, because the main character, Silas, is trans, and obviously it's also Victorian images. He's also got autism, and it's, again, Victorian England, so he's not doing well. Above that, he's also got purple eyes, which in this book means that he is able to open the veil, which basically is opening a portal, for lack of a better term, to commune with ghosts. But the thing is, because he's biologically female, he's legally not allowed to interact with the ghosts, and instead is expected to just marry and produce some purple-eyed sons, which he doesn't want to do for obvious reasons. Instead, he would much rather become a surgeon, which is great for him. So there's a lot of medical terminology in this book. So he tries to get his this thing called the Speaker's Seal, which, well, that's not too much of a spoiler. It's like addressed in like the first or second chapter of the book, which would basically give him a free pass to do whatever he wants, in a sense. So he tries to get this done, but it goes wrong. Well, he tries to get this seal to try and escape an arranged marriage, but that goes wrong, and so he gets sent to a boarding school, which is to try and correct violet-eyed women from basically it's a made-up disease. So it's tried to mold these women who are supposedly sick to be the eligible wives. But then Silas, when he gets there, starts interacting with spirits, and so very blatantly figures out he needs to do something wrong. He needs to do something wrong. Well, I guess in the eyes of the speakers, it would be seen as wrong. But in actuality, what he's doing is trying to get justice for these girls, and also get the fuck out of this boarding school, which is understandable. I related to Silas so much outside, except for the medical stuff. I'm extremely squeamish. I would not be able to be a surgeon, but power to him. And I felt so seen reading this, outside of the medical stuff. And I would like to read some passages to you now. A majority of them, I think. So 3 of them will be about gender, and 1 of them won't be. But, yeah. There is nothing wrong with my body. When I am alone, I'm in awe of it. I've studied myself in the mirror, comparing myself to the copy of Grey's Anatomy George, that's Silas's brother, bought for my 14th birthday. The systems, the patterns, the interconnecting weaves of veins and arteries and sinew. I don't know what that is. It is all a grand work of genius, and I could never begrudge the one that was given to me. I hold no hatred for the shape it takes, not for the breasts that overflow my cupped hands, nor for the thighs and hips, drawn with red lines where they have grown faster than the skin could handle. It is only when I step back to see it all through another's eyes that I want to unravel it and carve the meat into a new, different, more acceptable shape. I feel so seen. I don't feel proper dysphoria until I see myself through other people's eyes. This is the one that's not about gender. I can't help myself, not because I want to correct her, but because I don't like letting incorrect information just hang there. I overcorrect so much, not because I enjoy overcorrecting, but because I hate misinformation. And here's another one. No, I like being this, all of it, even if it makes things hard. And that's true, knowing these things about myself gives me an insight, an understanding of the way I move through the world that a great many people lack. I would never give that away. A lot of people, a lot of conservative people, let's be honest, I think that simply trying to ignore it and pretending to, when it comes to being trans and pretending to be all other things, would just make things better. It'd be easy, but it's not. It's really not. I read these out of order. Last one. A strange thing about being a boy like me is how difficult it is to untangle the truth of yourself and the world's perspective of you. Because yes, I am a boy. I am just as much a man as my father and brother, just a different kind. Acknowledging this has made my life almost bearable. It's taken a terrible weight off my shoulders, given me an answer for why I feel the way I do. But I still connect with women. I find companionship with them, closeness that cannot be denied, because the world will always do its damnedest to see me as one of them. As long as we are seen the same, we will experience the same. Our lives will be linked. I will be held the same to the unfair standards, punished under the same unjust rules. To separate how you are seen from who you are sometimes feel nigh impossible. If you can't tell, I rated this 5 stars. I loved it. It didn't nearly make me throw up on public transport. Yes, I should have skipped one of those chapters, but here we are. I loved this so much. And with that being said, these are all of the books I read in February. I'm sorry the camera keeps falling. It's very strenuous. And now, before I go, I would like to show my reading journal, which I forgot to do last month. I apologize. So, you can see I've done here is this point onwards is the point where I added the books I've read this month. I've got a chart here for star readings, and I've put the books in the colours that I rated them. And I've added here to my series tractor for Iron Widow, and I added another square since there's going to be a third one. I added the number. I've added how many books I read into this chart. I added this book to my DNF page, She Gets the Girl, which, you know, I did try and read a cutesy romance this month, but for some reason it made me feel physically sick. I don't know why. There wasn't necessarily anything wrong with it, it just made me feel uncomfortable, so I stopped reading it, which I'm allowed to do. It's my thing. This I didn't do this month, but I just feel like you need to appreciate it. This is my spread for Dapgo, which is great, underrated, love that. Right. This is the second part of my series tracker, which I've added Little Women this month since I forgot to do it last month. For those of you who aren't aware, there are, I think, technically 4 books, though the first 2 books are usually sold together. So the first book's Little Women, and then the second book's Good Wives, and then there's Little Men and Joe's Boys. I don't know which one's third or fourth. But yeah. And then this is what I did for February. You see all of my star ratings. And finally, this is what I did for March, because this is the month we're gonna get all the nice flowers here anyway. And then yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Again, please, if you have any recommendations for new cameras, let me know. I'd greatly appreciate it. I'm gonna try and fix mine, but I probably won't. Please like and subscribe, comment, share, do all of the great YouTube stuff, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!